incredibly busy all the time. We couldn't meet online. So I think those are the problems I encountered personally for my personal project. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Annette, thank you.
And one challenge I faced was finding resources to actually refer to do the like writing the report and understanding what goes into the writing aspect. Although like those resources were placed on a Google Drive, I felt like they were not um adequate enough, and so I had to go to the net. But going to the net, you find all kinds of information, and since we are not really experienced, it's difficult to filter out the kind of information that you will need in actually doing a specific criterion for the personal project.
Mm, mm, I hear you. Okay, thank you for that. Thanks, Annette. I saw a hand up. Kimberly, yes. Please, if you've spoken, you can put your hand down so I don't get confused and have to call you. Yes,
Okay.
Kimberly.
Yeah. The challenges that I faced, one is getting like an adequate time to communicate with my supervisor, because I noticed that like my timetable was full, then her timetable is full too. So every time we want to meet, either I have a class or she has a class. So like finding a appropriate time to meet with my supervisor was difficult, and like she's mostly busy after school. And the other challenge was the delay of the resources. Like my product was it takes a lot of time, and I needed like the December break to start my products on them, but the resources delayed and they came in January. So like I'm really struggling to finish it within 2 weeks.
All right. I saw Stephanie's. Stephanie, did you put your hand down? All right. Okay. Thank you. Stephanie, you can go.
Okay, so one of my main problems was that my supervisor was changed because my supervisor is not around and she was changed. But then with my personal project, it's related to a lot of technical work that I really needed that particular supervisor for. So I was having a lot of trouble sort of learning the different parts, like learning how to navigate the softwares that I needed to use for my personal projects, even with the YouTube videos and things that are in the tutorials that I did to watch. So that was one of my main problems during my personal project.
Okay. I don't see any other hand up. All right. Okay. And there's nobody in the chat who wants to say anything. Okay, I'm going to. It's interesting that you talked about. So these are the challenges that I gathered, or that I foresee based on the challenges, and I think that your concerns generally fall under that. So yes, not just me, not just AGIC, but the IB has also noted that these are challenges, and for us to hear that you can't access your supervisor online is actually concerning, because teachers were actually remaining online after lessons have ended till about 5. So it would be interesting to know how come you're all not able to find that time from the time lessons end. But these are things that we'll have to take on a case by case basis. But yeah, and Stephanie, I think I need to chat with you, because the idea is also to be able to access people in the community who have technical expertise, because in fact your supervisor's hands are tied as far as providing you technical support on your work is concerned. So I'll have a chat with you. I've made a note of it to meet with you and have a conversation with you. And the issue about access to resources, I'm sure you can understand with lockdowns here, no lockdown, offices closed, and these are funds that needed to be approved, you know. And by the time we could do that, the account office was also not in a position to do all of that. So I apologize for the delay in resources. But I also heard Danielle talking about not being here so you can't have resources. I don't know if all of you are aware that there was a form that had to be filled and whether you all filled the form. Because any request for resource that, or at least requests for resources have been brought to me and approved, and there's actually another batch. But also realizing that there are constraints. So what's happening? There are certain interventions. The first bit is that the IB has adjusted the deadline for schools to submit to them, which is something that is very welcome because it means that there are implications for your final submission to us as a school. It doesn't mean you are submitting to the IB on the 6th of May, no. There are still processes that we need to go through to ensure that you have we have assessed your work and all met all the requirements. So there are certain things that we also need to look at if we are going to think about, sorry, this thing is distracting me. I hope the navigation bar is not covering the text. Is it covering the text?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
All right, okay, it's gone now. So for us to make adjustments to this timeline, there are other bits. The school is not just MYP 5, and it's the same teachers who teach MYP courses, who teach DP courses, and then there are also things about teachers marking things like the mock exams, teachers supervising the mock exam, the final exams, and also making sure that we give enough time for you to do the work and also have time to prepare for exams. Is there an internet problem in the hostel? I'm wondering why, Mr. Tobe, I'm wondering why so many people are leaving the meeting.
There is no internet problem. I have internet in my hostel, so I don't know about the others.
Right. Thanks for clarifying. So, yes, Stephanie. Yes, Stephanie. Stephanie Williams, you had your hand up. Okay, maybe she changed her mind.
Sorry, hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, you know, this is
Listen, what that means is that there's more than one person in the room with a microphone or something, or tell the other person to mute themselves and turn off and mute their speaker as well.
Oh, I can hear you. What's talking? Oh, I finished talking. Do you hear me? No, we don't hear you. Sorry, I was saying that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. You are saying that in the United Nations was told the Wi-Fi tends to go on and off a lot, but then I've seen that the technical department is fixing some of the routers and the routers. So I'm sure the problem is rectified. But I just wanted to find that out.
That is a question for the technical support department, so I'll find out for them from them for you. Okay, I can't answer that question. I don't have the information to answer that question, so I'll pass it on to tech support. All right. Okay. I think there was a hand up. Who was that? Danielle. Did somebody have their hand up just now?
And Mrs. Hudson, it was me, but then Nana just said what I wanted to say. So
That's the internet problem.
yes, please, in the Niger D hostel.
I will pass it on to them. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
David Osoro, what do you want us to do with this text? All right. So the important thing that I want to communicate to you, really, which I hope is a relief for most of you, is that based on this new development from the IBO, we've also, Mr. Toby and I have spent some time looking at the schedule that we had given you and made adjustments. So we're thinking that I see that there's request for resources. Now, if you didn't request for resources and they come late, then it means that those adjustments to make sure that when you get your resource, you can continue working. You would have to work within that time. So next week, Monday, you're going to have a meeting on criterion C and D, because I understand that with all that was happening and so on, you're not able to meet. And then you're going to go ahead and submit your drafts for criterion C and D. You've submitted a draft for A and B, and hopefully your supervisors have given you feedback. All your submissions must go on Manage Back on the personal projects tab. I've put the teacher activities on there, so you know that your teachers are going to be engaged. We'll need to do a standardization workshop because there are so many teachers, we are using the same assessment criteria. So we're going to look at some sample personal projects, and we are going to make sure that by the time we are marking your individual projects, we are all marking at the same standard. Your personal projects, the final report, I've seen some hands up. I'll call you. Stephanie Williams, I'll call you. The final report will be due on the 25th of March. Now, you're going to ask, why is it that final upload is on 6th May and you're asking us to submit in March? Because there are a lot of things that have to happen in between. All teachers, like I said, are involved in other things. When you submit on the 25th of March, your teachers will be able to take advantage to look at your work over their mid-semester break, because when we come back, not too long after that, final exam starts and most teachers will be supervising. But apart from the fact that final exam starts and most teachers will be supervising, there are things that have to happen. Teachers will have to submit their marks. A team of teachers will randomly sample the works that have been marked, and we are going to moderate and check whether they've been marked up to standard, else we need to go back to those teachers. And within that period, there's a lot of back and forth, so we need adequate time. This is the period through which we'll also be checking your work through plagiarism checkers and so on, because we cannot afford to submit work that lacks academic integrity to the IB. Now, based on that, you have your You have your final exam starting on 12th May. And then, so after 12th May, your teachers are marking and so on. But instead of having the exhibition in April, we will have the exhibition on 28th May 2021. So I think the major thing for you is that your final report is due on 25th March, but you have a draft due in 2 weeks so that your teachers can give you feedback. If you have specific issues with your supervisor, please email the PP team and I will get a copy as well. The other thing I wanted to address, I noticed some of you have challenges, and instead of you routing it through your supervisors and the PP team, I see you sending mails and copying everybody. That's not how things work. So let's try and respect and follow procedure because it's also a skill, all right? At this point, I'll take questions and I'll take Stephanie Williams first.
Thank you, Mrs. Audition. Please, I wanted to ask a question. Normally, whenever we're supposed to, you mentioned that when we submit a criteria, we're supposed to have feedback from our supervisors. And I wanted to ask how long, like generally, how long are we supposed to wait before we receive feedback? Because for all the criteria that I've submitted, I haven't gotten any feedback from my supervisor.
Okay. Ideally, you should have feedback to be able to progress to the next stage. And the expectation is that you will arrange that with your supervisor. It's unfortunate that I'm now finding out that you've never received feedback. And that's why there's another layer. That if you're having challenges with your supervisor, send an email to PP team and let us know and we'll pick it up. But if you are micromanaging it and we don't know, and then last minute suddenly we find out, it becomes a problem because it's as if nobody did anything about it, but probably you did not inform us. So please, anyone who is having challenges with their supervisor, send an email. Mr. Towe, please post the PP team email address in the chat, and they are able to send an email to us. All right.
If I've done that, please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Addison.
You're welcome. Any questions? All right, if there are no questions, thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and do not hesitate to send a message or reach out. Kimberly, you have a point. I did not dismiss you people, so when I say you can leave, you can leave. Okay. Kimberly, yes.
Yeah, I have a question. On the slide, it was written that we are going to submit criterion C and D, and we have already submitted criterion C.
Yes, it means you have the opportunity to redo it properly.
Okay, thank you.
All right, okay. All right, thank you, and you may leave the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.